check it out. All right, moving on. My next guest is a young 30-year-old pilot and a real estate developer who was sent home from the military on suspicion of being a supporter of white supremacy, being a racist and a Nazi because, and only because, he had a Donald Trump screensaver on his cell phone. Joining me now is Piero Maranon Velasco. Welcome to the program. I see you're wearing
How are
the
you,
appropriate attire.
I understand. I'm glad you said that. I was about to apologize in advance for my hat. I know it's been very offensive for the last 3 years.
It's crazy. We actually have an image of the image of Donald Trump that was on your phone. Now, tell me, it was seen by one of your superiors, or who saw the image and turned you in, basically?
So on Sundays, we're allowed to use our phones during basic training in order to communicate with our families. During the morning, when we go to religious services, some of the females are in charge, the ones who are staying in the company and not going to church, are the ones who are in charge of charging our phones so we could have it fully charged during our phone time because it's pretty short. You know, we just get like an hour or 30 minutes depending on how we did and how we performed during the week. So when this female, who happened actually to be black, um, handed me my phone later on that day, she just asked me, "Why do you have a picture of Trump on my phone?" I was like, "Well, I support him. I like him. I like his policies." "Oh, then you're a racist." And then the harassment started with silly questions out of nowhere, like, "Do you like black girls?" And my answer was actually no. I don't find him attractive because I have the right to do so. And actually, my wife, which is what actually made it worse for me, my wife happened to be Caucasian. She's white. So since I didn't know, never got the memo that as a Latino, as a Hispanic, I'm not supposed to marry a white woman. In order to preserve the race, I have to marry a Latina or a black female. So that's what happened.
All right. So then they started persecuting you. But what happened next? Because it didn't end up well, and for you, frankly. So just briefly walk us through the different stages of this whole thing.
The senior drill sergeant was a Hispanic female from LA that was in charge of my platoon. After this Sunday, she started with comments like, "I'm proud to be from California, and my favorite color is blue." Every time I was around, either we were at the company, at the range, or training, or doing some exercise, every time I was around, I started to notice these things. And some peers that I got close to, they knew I was a Republican for the things that I mentioned. Uh, they were like telling me, "Hey, have you noticed that this sergeant is saying these things every time we're around, every time you're around?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've noticed that." So the day of my graduation, my wife, who was 7 months pregnant, she flew to South Carolina, and my mom flew from Peru to South Carolina in order to see me graduate. The day of my graduation, they informed me that I was staying. That I was not graduating. I was going to be staying in Fort Jackson because there was an ongoing investigation for equal opportunity violations and DEI policies. What happened was that day, my company commander, the same company commander that at the beginning of basic training introduced himself, asking us how many genders are there. He asked me straightforward, "Hey, training, have you ever read Mein Kampf?" Which I have. I have read Communist Manifesto too, but that doesn't mean I'm a communist. You literally have to study your enemy.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they didn't let you graduate, even though your family had flown in specifically for the purpose. They made you sleep
Yes.
on a cot. I think we have a photo of the cot setup that they put for
There
you.
you
So
go.
they sequestered you. They sequestered you from your unit, and then they wouldn't let you
Yes.
graduate. And then where did it go from there? Were you discharged?
I was discharged on March of this year, not on the conditions that they were planning on, because actually the Republican Party from Arizona got involved. Since I was living in Arizona then, a couple of senators and actually Congressman Elijah Crane went in person. He flew from Washington to South Carolina in February of this year to interview the general. and my chain of command. There is actually an interview of Eli Crane on Steve Bannon's show talking about my case, that he was actually convinced that I was being railroaded.
Being railroaded. And so, have you gotten any positive resolution from all of this?
Yes. So a lot of people got involved. The Arizona GOP provided me with legal support, and we submitted a packet to the Army Board of Corrections on July of this year. Actually, a month and a half ago, I think it was in September, I got a confirmation from the Pentagon that they received the packet that I submitted in July, and they're working on it. Hopefully, with this election, this was entirely political motivated, and hopefully, with this election, we are going to have a favorable outcome.
Yeah, I have here Don W. Jenkins is a colonel, retired in the U.S. Army, and he wrote that I was convinced that a miscarriage of justice was taking place. Ultimately, did take place with Private Maranon being removed from his role serving in the U.S. Army, and he actually wrote this letter and recommended that you get hired and you got an endorsement from General Flynn as well, a wholehearted endorsement, I should say. This is just a miscarriage of justice. What message do you have for other young people who have enlisted in the military, thinking that this would just be basically the greatest adventure of their life, right? Their lives. That's what it's being sold as. What advice do you have for them?
Enlist, join. America didn't fail me. The Army didn't fail me. Whole Just a small group of corrupted and incompetent officers uh, are not going to bring down centuries of victories of the most powerful army in the entire nation, in the entire world. So America's is still great. The armies is still great. Serve your country, and it's going to give you a lot of satisfaction. Just still join, still enlist.
That's actually an amazing testimony. Now, I know you're from Peru. How did you become a U.S. citizen?
So it's a very long process if you do it the legal way. Actually, I applied. I've been applying since 2011. In 2017, I finally got a confirmation. I came to the United States, and I got a green card, which it's kind of, you have the same privileges as a citizen. The only difference is that you don't have a passport and you're not allowed to vote. Well, so on March of this year, since I was going to become a citizen regardless because of my process, but because of I actually enlisted in the army, that accelerated my process a little bit. So I became a citizen in March of this year, which the army wasn't planning on doing at all, because if it was not for the Arizona GOP, I would have been deported back in November of last year.
That's amazing.
It
Listen,
is.
Piero Maranon, thank you so much for coming on the program. I really admire you and respect your will to fight and your will to serve. So thank you so much.